This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I'll finish off whatever is little left in accounts receivable. Uh, we had covered the major part of operations as far as accounts receivable is concerned. I will just quickly walk you through some of the similar screens which are there that you've already seen in accounts payables. There are certain similar screens which are available in accounts receivables as well. For example, the AR accounts inquiry. This is again an inquiry screen which will list the aging for every category of debtor that you have. Now, I think I should change because this particular property wing does not seem to have much information on accounts receivable. So I'll just log out and log into another property where I can show you how it looks like. So going back, accounting module, I go to accounts receivable. Here, AR accounts inquiry. So AR accounts inquiry is very similar to the suppliers inquiry screen that we saw in accounts payables. When I click on the search button, the system will list the aging for every category of debtor that is created in the system. So I have the aging, which is showing the unsettled credits, also the aging of transactions which fall under every, which qualify within each bucket that is defined in the AR control screen. So the categories are credit cards, corporates, individuals, online travel agent, others, and so on and so forth. Now, if you, like I said, it's the similar drill down process that is available here as well. So if you want to track on online travel agents, you just have to double click on online travel agents. The system will list all the debtors which are a part of online travel agents, and it will also show you the corresponding aging for each of the debtors. Going forward, if you want to track one particular debtor, look at the statement, you can just double click like I did for Agoda, and Agoda will show you all the transactions from the first of the financial year to the current business date. It will show you each of the transactions that are available. The statement of account is what is displayed. If you want to track a particular transaction, you can again double click on that particular transaction and open and see. This is a credit note which has been posted. You can see the details of what this credit note is all about, and the credit note is posted against which invoice, and so on and so forth. So starting from the AP, the AR inquiry screen, you can move up to a particular transaction to track any specific debtor that you want to. So this is very similar to what is available in the accounts payables. There is again dispute transactions available as well. The same concept, similar concept. If there is any dispute between the hotel and the debtor regarding a particular transaction, you can always mark it as disputed here in this column and let it remain disputed, so that there are no incorrect reminders being sent to the debtor to collect the money. Once the dispute is over, you come back to the screen, you untick the checkbox, you click on the save button, the transaction will start appearing for you to send the reminders and collect the payment. Transfer transactions is another, it's the same concept like we saw for accounts payables. You can transfer transactions from one debtor account to another debtor account. Moving ahead to reports of accounts receivable. The reports, again, accounts receivable being exact opposite of accounts payables. The important reports that we always refer to is within the transactions, within the transaction, there is a sundry debtors details report. The sundry debtors details report will show you all the details of the transactions which have been posted for each of the debtors. There is a summarized version of the report available as well, which is sundry debtors summary report. So this is your detail. So it will show you for every category of debtor. It will list each of the debtors and the transactions that have been recorded. So these are the details that you can see. So the summarized version is this sundry debtors summary. Front office transactions, front office transfer. This is the transfer, all the transactions that have been transferred from PMS to accounts receivable. It is in form of a report that can be displayed. Reminders I had already mentioned. And then, of course, there is this aging report. The aging summary, which is available. So it is the aging summary is as on the date. The date is always, by default, it is always the current business date. So you can change the date as on for which you want to see the aging report. So ideally, at any given point of time, the sundry debtors summary, the total of the summarized report and the total of the aging report should tally. That is how we say that the system is working correctly. So it is the same aging buckets, unsettled transactions, and the aging buckets defined in AR control screen. This report is a dynamic report in the sense that after a certain period of time when the hotel has used the application, if they want to change the buckets, say by default it is defined as 0 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90. So if they want to change the range of the buckets, say they want to do it 0 to 90, 90 to 180, 180 to so and so forth, this report will dynamically reflect the amount in each of the buckets based on whatever has been changed. So there is a grand total figure displaying here. So the quickest and the fastest way of ensuring that the application or the module is working correctly is that this figure should always tally with the grand total figure of the sundry creditors summarized report or the sundry creditors details report. So that is the rule that we follow. Statement of account, it can be printed in the report format as well. So whenever there is VAT applicable, there is a VAT register which will print all the VAT, the VAT percentages that has been applied. So these are some of the reports which are very frequently used in the accounts receivable. AR parameters and masters, if you want to print the masters and the parameters, you can use this particular section to print them. So moving ahead, this is all as far as accounts receivable is concerned. I am going ahead to general ledger. The general ledger being the backbone of the entire application because all the financial reports will be printed from the general ledger. Let me just switch back to Wink. So this is accounting, this is general ledger. Now, like I had mentioned that all financial reports are printed from the general ledger module. So it is very important that whatever transactions that we have posted in various other modules like the receivables, the payables or materials management, all such transactions should come into the general ledger module. It has to be pulled into the general ledger module so that you're able, your financial statements like the P&L, the trial balance, the P&L and your balance sheet show correct figures. So the pulling of information from the various modules into the general ledger is done from this screen. This is the screen. This is by default in the system, this feature or this functionality of pulling the information from various modules into general ledger is set to a manual mode, in the sense the user has to come into the screen. These are the various modules from which the information, the financial information is pulled into general ledger. The user has to select each of the modules, enter a date, and do a transfer and post. This is a manual process. However, if this entire manual process can also be automated. So there is a provision in the system to automate or to automatically transfer all transactions from various modules into general ledger. However, by default, when the application is deployed at any site or for any hotel, by default, this entire functionality of transferring transactions into general ledger is set to a manual mode. So how does this screen work? The screen is, on the left hand side, this is what you see. These are the sources of transactions. Sources of transactions are typically the modules, the various modules that are available, accounting and materials management, as well as front office. Now, front office, this you will not use. This front office option is required only in case of when the PMS is of Prol'IFIC first. For third-party front office, I don't think you will require. But for accounts payables, for receivables, for inventory, and later on, much later on, if F&B is required, then probably F&B. Otherwise, the primary modules are accounts payables, accounts receivables, and inventory. So when I select accounts payables, what to do? It says the question is whether you want to post the transactions of accounts payables into the individual ledger account codes, or do you want to transfer from other modules? So the first step is always to transfer from other modules. You select the source, you say transfer from other modules, and you select the date. You enter the date for which you want to transfer. So this depends on the operational policy of the hotel. They may want to transfer every day, after every day, or after the business date has been changed, or they may want to transfer every alternate day. That depends on their working, their operations. So whatever date up to which you want to transfer, I say that today my business date is 30th. I'm still working on today. It is still on. So I want to transfer all transactions till the 29th. So I select the date of 29th and I click on the transfer button here. When I do a transfer button here, you will see transactions exist for this date, means it has selected, it is showing me transactions for the 2nd of June and it is showing me transactions for the 24th of June. Why? The system has detected that there are transactions posted for the 2nd of June and the 24th of June, which has not been transferred to general ledger. I selected the date up to the 29th. So the system will check when was the last date when transactions were transferred. So from the last date up to the date that I have entered here, it will detect all the dates for which transactions have been posted in the module, in the accounts payables module, but have not been transferred into general ledger. So that's how it came up with two dates. First is the 2nd and second date is the 24th. As you click on the date, you will see the journals that is being created. In the sense, on the 2nd of June, there were transactions posted which affected the Vietcom bank account, Vietcom's ledger account code, and advance to supplier. Okay, so it will show you the journals. So there was a 50,000 credit and the 50,000 debit, because this was the journal which was posted on 2nd of June in the accounts payables module because of probably an advance payment which was made to the supplier or for some other reason. So similarly, for the 24th of June, when I click on 24th of June, you see that inventory food, this is debited by 787500, and accounts payable, which means this indicates that there was a purchase journal which was recorded on the 24th of June, where the food inventory ledger account code was debited and the creditors control account code was credited. So it will show you the journals here. So once the transfer is complete, you have to post. So you will select the option of post, and how to post is not cumulative. do not select cumulative, because if you do cumulative, the system will post one single journal for the entire month. So we don't want it for entire month. We are going to post it daily, which means each of the ledger account codes, I want to see the transactions, the records as posted daily, not cumulative. Cumulative is one single journal for the entire month. So I don't want it cumulative. By default, it is always daily. So how to post is daily. The date is already there. Now, the moment I select the option of post, the transfer button changes to post. When I post, only after I post, I click on the post button, will the amount that you see here, only after posting will they start reflecting in the respective ledger account codes in the general ledger module. So transfer means you are just transferring. It is still in the interface. Post means you are actually posting into the individual ledger account codes that you see here, so that when you print the trial inquiry or when you print the trial balance from the general ledger module, you will be able to see these amount in the respective ledger account codes. Okay, so you do post. It will post one journal for the 2nd of June, another journal for the 24th of June, because I've said posting should be daily for each date. So now that the posting is complete, it should reflect in each of my. So when I do a trial inquiry here, and say, for example, I take the date from 1st June to 30th June, the account that I'm taking is inventory food. Okay, and let's see if I say search, new records from Dubai. Okay, do this. Search. So inventory food, you see, when I do, because I have selected a specific ledger account code in my trial, it is showing me inventory food ledger account code, the total amount of debit and the total amount of credit. Now, so the net debit is this much. Now, if I want to see what exactly this debit and credit is and the net debit is coming out to me, I can double click on it. When I double click, it will take me to another screen called the ledger inquiry, which is specifically for this ledger account code, which is showing me all the transactions in the sense all the journals. Now, the journals which have been transferred from accounts payables module, you will see the type as TV. TV is a transfer journal, which you cannot modify. The only way of correcting a transfer journal will be to post a contra journal in the general ledger account, in the general ledger module. So these are for each date. If you see this, these are all for the 1st of June. So now let me just go down and see for the 2nd of June if she, or let me do 0206 to 23. So this is a filter that I have. So in the filter, it is showing me that so many records, so many transfer journals have been posted. I am not able to see that amount. Let me try it. Yeah, this is the one, the last one. See, now the amount is reflecting here. So it has posted a transfer voucher. So when I double click on this, it will open up the journal, the entire journal, okay? So in this, on the 24th, So if I want to track, so the journal that was posted for the 24th of June includes inventory food so many times because it was probably 24th of June had many transactions. It was transferred multiple times and posted multiple times. So now if I want to track any particular amount, say I want to see, so these are each of my ledger account codes which are reflecting the amount. Now, I, as an accounts person, if I want to track what this amount is for, which is affecting the inventory food, I click on this option, the checkbox here to say to view source journal. So when I click on to view source journal and I select the particular amount that I want to track, it will show me all the transactions here. And so 3642. So 3642, this is totaling up, this entire list is totaling up to 3642. Let me see, let me track 3642 here. So this one, so since I'm tracking 3642, this is the amount that I'm tracking. I first clicked on to view source journal. I clicked on that particular amount record that I want to track. It will show me the entire for the 24th, it will show me all the voucher payables that have been recorded. So in this entire list, I have figured out 3642 3642000. This is the amount. Now I want to check what this voucher payable was. So when I double click on this voucher payable, it will take me to accounts payables module where I can see that this was a purchase journal which was posted on the 24th of June. The bill number was this for this particular supplier, and which is why inventory food was affected, or it was debited by this amount 3642000. So starting from general ledger, you can track a particular amount stuff. You can start from the ledger in trial. From the trial, you can move to the ledger. From the ledger, you can select the journal. From the journal, you can track a particular amount to the original source of the transaction. It could be accounts payables, it could be accounts receivables, it could even be the materials management. Right now, the example that I have taken is of accounts payable. Why? Because I just transferred for accounts payables, and you can easily know by looking at the number. See, this is a transaction number. So the transaction number is prefixed with AP. AP, whenever the transaction number is prefixed with AP, transaction in the sense the journal number is prefixed with AP, you know that the source of this journal is accounts payable. For all journals which are being transferred from materials management, the journal number will be prefixed with IV, inventory. Okay, so AR will have a AR prefix to it. So this is how you can start, you can locate, first you transfer and you can verify whatever you have transferred by going up to the original source of transaction. So the screens that I covered right now are post interface transaction, where I pulled the information from various modules into the general ledger. Then from post interface transaction, I moved to the trial inquiry, where I selected the trial inquiry can be done for assets, incomes, liabilities, and expenses, or you can do a trial for the entire list of ledger account codes. What I did was I looked up the trial for a specific ledger account code, which is the inventory food, which is why I entered the account from and account to here with the date range. From the trial inquiry, I double clicked and I moved to, and the system took me to the ledger inquiry. From the ledger inquiry, I picked up a particular ledger account code, which I double clicked, and it took me to the journal voucher inquiry screen, where it opened up the transfer voucher. TV is the journal which is posted. From journal voucher inquiry, I was tracking a particular amount, and to track the particular amount, the system took me to the original source, which is the accounts payables module. All right. So these are some of the important screens which are often used in general ledger. Apart from this operation, Now, if you remember, when we had covered the create modify chart of accounts, when we were creating the chart of accounts, there was one section, one option which said sub ledger allowed, yes or no. So which means, will this particular ledger, main ledger account code have sub ledgers? So if you say yes, then the sub ledger account codes, like the list of account codes, chart of accounts is created at the chain level, there is one option called create modify subledger. So for all account codes for whom you have mentioned that there is a subledger is mandatory, all such main account codes will list here. Now I don't have any I think I can create it now. Let me try. Say expense. Basic salary. Subledger. Do I say mandatory? So if I say mandatory here and save, so basic salary, I have said that this particular ledger account code, this ledger account code is a main ledger account code, but it will have subledgers where the actual postings will happen. So when I say mandatory here, in the general ledger module, you go to the property, general ledger, create modify subledger. So create modify subledger option is available at the property because it is not necessary that all properties of a chain would be using subledgers for a particular ledger account code. So which is why create modify subledger is available at the property level. So once I have create modify account code, expenses, basic salary, I've said this is subledger allowed is mandatory. Create modify subledger. Why is it not displaying salary? So how does this screen, let me just explain how the screen works, but it's somehow not working for this property at the moment at my end. So the main ledger account code in which I have marked it as mandatory, that is the one that will list here when you click on the drop down. So once you have selected the main ledger account code, which is the basic salary ledger account code, within the basic salary ledger, whatever are the subledger account codes that you want to create, it should be defined here, should be entered here. So you give an account code here, and then you click on the save button. So this is how you define, you can create as many subledger account codes as you want within the main ledger account code that you have selected here. This entire process again is available or can be uploaded, or the entire list of subledgers against a particular main ledger account code can be uploaded using the download template option. This is again the same Excel template that is available everywhere, which you can use, save, and you say upload data. Instead of creating one ledger account code at a time in the screen, you can use the download template option here. This is the subledger, the concept of subledger, which you define from the create modify subledger account code. There are budgets that can be defined. So this is create modify budgets. So whenever a transaction, at the time of posting a transaction, if there is a budget defined, the budgets are for the ledger account codes for assets, liabilities, incomes, and expenses. You can download a template, again an Excel template, to upload the budgets. What is the information as far as uploading budget you need to give is what I'm going to tell you now. So these are the list of ledger account codes. It is showing you the complete account code. You can do it for account. You can define the budgets for an account group. Say, for example, mortgage and inventories. Maybe inventories is one of the account groups for which you want to define the budget. So the budget can be defined for the entire category of ledger account codes for a specific account, or you can do for account and department, which means the complete ledger account code, like printing and stationery for IT, printing and stationery for admin and general, printing and stationery for housekeeping, things like that. So how do you enter the budgets? These are the list of periods. These are the 12 financial periods which are available here. My financial year starts from January to December in case of this property, which is why it is showing from January to December. When the financial year for properties which start from, say, it is April to March, the periods will display accordingly. So these are the 12 periods. For each period, I can define account group. So account group and inventories, I can define the budget. So this is a column of budget, target, and forecast. So budget is, of course, the budgeted figure that you want to enter, that you will have to enter. Target is a figure which can be equal or less than the budget, and the forecast is something which can be more or equal to the budget. So this is what forecast, target, and budget means. The actual column will display the actual transacted, whatever is the figure the system has calculated for the month of April for inventories. That is the actual figure as per transactions recorded. It will reflect here. So you can use copy last year budget just in case the budget figures do not change and you want to just copy paste, the figures remain the same. You can use copy last year budget for the category, for the particular account code, or for the complete ledger account code. Like I said, the budgets, again, you can use download template instead of doing for each category one by one. You can do the download template, which is a template option, Excel template. You can select whether you want to do it for assets, for liabilities, incomes, and expenses one at a time, or do you want it to do it for all. So if you say all and you say download template, the template will have the list of the entire list of chart of accounts, all of it. So if you want to do one category at a time, you can select the specific category among this 4 and then do a download template. It will list only those ledger account codes which belong to the specific category that you selected here. And then you say upload data, your budgets would start appearing. So this is budgets. There are up to, sorry, let me just tell you one more thing. The budgets we have, you can define up to 4 different budgets. So you could have consumption budget, purchase budget, and so on and so forth. So the possibility of defining budgets, there are 4 different budgets that you can define for a particular financial year. This is create modify budgets. Now, apart from post interface and the regular operations, when you have to now, when in a situation where you're taking a hotel live, and once after you have defined the entire list of chart of accounts, it is uploaded into the system, you will have to take the trial balance from the previous system of the hotel, the previous system or the previous application from which they are moving into Web Prol'IFIC. So once you take out you have to take a cutoff date and you take out the trial from the previous system. You need to feed in that trial balance, those balances of each of the ledger account codes, which is reflecting in the trial, into Web Prol'IFIC, which will be considered as the opening balances start so that the system can go live. So to feed in the trial, you use this screen, the Create Journal Voucher screen. This is the screen from where regular operational journals are posted, as well as the first opening balance trial is posted. So it's the same screen. This screen, there are different types. These are all journals. These are all journals. Transfer voucher, like I explained, is a journal which is stamped as TV because it has been being transferred from other modules. So TV is something that you cannot create. You cannot create in this screen. TV is automatically generated by the system when you transfer transactions from other modules. Whereas all the others, which is bank voucher, cash voucher, contra vouchers, journal voucher, this is like there's a special category of journal which has been created just to identify that this particular journal was posted to upload the trial and create the opening balances. So these are all types of journals. All bank related journals, you can use the option of BV so that when you generate a report, you can see what are the specific journals specific only to bank. So similarly, cash voucher, you can use CV as a journal type to post all journals which are specific to cash. Or CV is ideally used. This is a type of journal which is used by the general cashier module. All other journals which are not bank related, which are not for opening balances, which are not for cash, all other journals, any kind of journal that you're posting is considered or can be stamped as JV. So you can create a JV. So you double click, you enter the type. This is the date on which you're posting the JV. You give the name for the JV. Okay. And then you start entering the journal ledger account codes, which should be debited and credited so that your journal is complete. So I can say furniture, I will have furniture. Okay, let me just do this. So I am purchasing inventory, chemicals and cleaning. So this is the ledger account code that I have selected. I enter the amount, 10,000. This is debit because furniture purchase is the narration. Add row, which is the credit side of this journal. So the credit side is, say, for example, I am paying cash or bank, maybe. Cash. So like, I'm just using this ledger account code. This is a random ledger account code. This is credit. So I enter the amount. My journal is balanced. The amount is the same, debit and credit. Journal is balanced. So I can say save and close if I want to exit the screen, or I say save and new if I want to continue posting the screen. Now, at times it may happen that the journal that you're posting is very big in the sense there are, say, over 50 ledger account codes in that particular journal, and you're not sure of the amount that you need to feed in and the specific ledger account codes that should be debited and credited. In that scenario, you can enter the ledger account codes that you are aware of. You can enter the amount for each of the ledger account codes that you're aware of. And because the debit and the credit side are not matching, the system will allow you to save the journal only when you click on this checkbox which says incomplete save. Otherwise, if the journal is imbalanced, which means the debit and the credit side are not matching, and you try to say save and close or save and new, the system will say imbalanced journal and it will not update or it will not save the journal. So in case of big journals or huge journals where there are more than 50 ledger account codes, you feed in whatever you know and you say incomplete save and you say save and close. Of course, if you have saved journals as incomplete saves, you will eventually have to open those journals and save them as complete journals, means balanced journals. Otherwise, again, your financial reports will go for a toss. Okay, so just in case, say, for example, I given an amount like this. Now, this is an imbalanced journal. The debit is showing 10,000, the credit is showing 9,000. But there are more ledger account codes that should be affected, which I'm not aware of. So I can just say incomplete save and I say save and close. Do you want to print it? I said, no, I don't want to print it right now, but it is saved. So a journal number is generated. Okay. Now, I can do this, but then finally, before my financial year closing or before my month end closing, I need to locate all such imbalanced journals and balance them and complete them. Otherwise, again, my financial reports go for a toss. So I go to Journal Voucher Inquiry screen. I will select the option of incomplete journals here. I enter the type of journal that I had entered. These are some of the filters available. There are filters available for amount also if you want to locate journals by amount. And I say search. So when I say search, it will open up the journal that I had saved as incomplete. So now I can select this particular journal. I say open journal for editing. And whatever is imbalanced, I can balance it either as by the amount or by adding more ledger account codes, whatever is the case. Now I will say income, I will remove this incomplete save and I say save and close. So my journal is saved. Do you want to print it? You can print it if you want to, otherwise. So the journal number changes to 298. Okay, so there are no more incomplete journals, recently posted journals, and I say search, it will show me the complete journal that I had posted down. So using the journal voucher inquiry screen, not only can you locate journals that you have already posted, but you can use those records, use those journals to copy. You can select a journal, you can select a particular existing journal to copy the journal into a new one. Say the ledger account codes are same, everything is same, only the date is different. So instead of typing in everything again, you can just select a similar journal and say copy the journal to post a new one. You can also say copy the journal without amounts, where the ledger account codes are the same, but there is only a difference in the amount. So you locate a similar journal and you say copy to journals without amounts. You can use it to post reversal journals. Say this journal is something that I want to reverse. So I select that particular journal and I say post a reversal journal. It will post a. So reversal journal is the ledger account code which was debited in the original will be credited and the one which was credited earlier will be debited. So that is the reversal journal. Or you can print journals without amounts. So these are some of the things that can be done using the journal voucher inquiry screen. So the trial posting, for trial posting also, all you need to do is go to journal voucher inquiry. You can create a specific, see in the general ledger parameter screen, if you remember, there is this section called transaction type. In this section, most of the types of journals, which means bank voucher, cash voucher, journal voucher, transfer voucher, will already be there in the system when you install, when you deploy it. You don't have to create. At the most, you may need to create a type of journal like this, which is OJ, opening balance JV, just to identify that this particular journal was posted to take the system live so that the trial from the previous software can be fed into web Prol'IFIC as opening balances. So this is just for identification. You can create a new transaction type as opening balance journal. So when you use the create journal voucher screen, again, when there is a download template option, because the trial will be a huge journal. So instead of doing it in the screen, you can do download template in the Excel sheet. Only difference is that you will use the transaction type as OJ, the one that you had created. Rest, then you download the template, you upload the entire trial balance, all the balances of all the ledger account codes in the chart of accounts, and you say upload data. So the journal will appear here, and all you have to do is just say save and close. Your opening balances are created and your system goes live. Okay, so in the general ledger parameter screen, you can create a transaction type as OJ if you want to, so that when later on when the reports are being printed, or when you're looking at the trial balance, you can easily identify why this particular transaction or why this particular journal was posted. All right. Now, here in general ledger, while posting a bank related journal where maybe you're making a payment via check or doing an online transfer, you do type as BV, which is bank voucher. Rest everything bank payment, I say, or cash withdrawal from bank or whatever. So this is, you select the ledger account code of bank. Now, I hope, yeah, cash in bank. Okay. So when I select the ledger account code here, I enter, rest everything remains the same. This is what I am withdrawing. Add row. So I say cash. This is the amount. Cash is debit because I'm withdrawing cash. Bank, sorry, cash. I can give the narration. This is the same narration that I copy here. Narration of the journal. And see, there is a type that comes automatically here. This type, if you remember in accounts payable and accounts receivable, whenever there was a payment type of transaction, either receiving payment or giving out payment, we had mapped it to the bank reconciliation module. We had said that these are bank related transactions and should reflect in the bank reconciliation module. Similarly, in the general ledger module, if you're posting a journal which affects the bank, then it should be typed, the mapping in general ledger for bank related transaction is done through this option, which is called the type. So there are two types, one for the money that you're depositing in the bank and one for money that you are paying out of the bank. So there are two types, two reference types that you will have to define for each of your bank IDs if you are posting bank related journals in general ledger. So based on the type, it will reflect. Now, where is this type defined? I will tell you. This is cash. Because it is a credit, it has automatically picked up the type as Vietcom bank withdrawal. So I give the date when I will withdraw either through by giving out a check or whatever. So this is the number. This is the check number or the bank reference number, bank transaction reference number through which I am making a payment or withdrawing cash or whatever. And I say save and new. So again, with the mapping, now this particular transaction of 1 lakh will start appearing in my bank reconciliation based on the type that was stamped in the journal. Now this list of type, these lists that you see here, cash withdrawal, cash deposit, bank charges, payment issued, payment received, this list is created in the general ledger parameters screen where we just looked into for transaction types. In the general ledger parameters screen, there is something called as reference doc ID. So this reference doc ID is required for all bank related journals that you are posting in general ledger, the journals that you are directly posting into general ledger. Now, if there is only one particular bank from for which you transact as direct journals in general ledger, then you do it for that specific bank. Like in this case, I think most of the transactions they're posting bank journals only from Vietcom Bank and not from the other ones. So which is why they have created for only for this Vietcom Bank. So the document ID, one is bank charges, one is cash deposit, one is cash withdrawal, one is payment issued, one is payment received. So these are the different document IDs, reference document IDs. It's a 4-character code. You give a description, but type remains bank, and you select the particular bank ID for which you are creating these reference doc IDs. So when you select the bank, and you give the corresponding bank transaction type. The bank transaction type is payment issued, payment received, or cash deposit or cash withdrawal. In most cases, it will be only two, which is payment issued and payment received. In some cases, you may have cash deposit, cash withdrawal, and bank charges you don't need to map, because bank charges you can directly post in the bank reconciliation module. However, they may be posting some journals related to bank charges in general ledger, which is why Wink has created or mapped bank charges to for this particular bank as well. So the moment I debit, basis on the ledger account code of the bank, whether I'm debiting or crediting, the system will automatically pick up a PI or a PR. It will pick up a CD or a CW. Okay, so all you need to do is, in the reference doc ID section, you have to create two reference documents, one for cash, one for payment issued, one for payment received. Okay, and you need to say the type is bank, and you map it for the specific bank to which it should be for the specific bank. So now if I have more than one bank, like I have Vietcom Bank, there was one more 2-3 other banks. If there are bank journals being posted for the other two banks also, you will have to create similar document IDs for the other two as well. Payment issued, payment received, which you'll have to map it here. Okay, so this is the reference doc ID. This is the importance of reference doc ID. All right. So we've covered the journal postings. We have covered the journal voucher inquiry. We have checked upon the ledger inquiry, the trial inquiry. Then there is something called this open or closed GL periods. So open or closed GL periods is to close any financial period once the account books of accounts are closed. Okay, and for some reason, if it is required to post any backdated transaction in a closed period, you will have to come to the screen and open that particular period in which you want to post the backdated transaction. And once the transactions are posted, you have to close the period back again. Now, the open and close period, the screen, the authority of the screen is normally given only to the financial controller. It should not be available to any end user, so that there is a control of opening and closing the periods. Otherwise, anybody can just open and close periods and keep posting transactions as and when they want. So in this screen, you will see two sections. One is open periods and one is closed periods. The open period section will show you which period do you want to open. So it will show you the last closed year, the last closed period, and you can select which period you want to open, which month, which financial month do you want to open. Okay, you just select that month and you say okay. You can say save and close. Similarly, when you have to close the periods, in the closed period section, it will again show you the last closed period and the last closed month, the last closed financial month. To close, you do a drop down and you select the particular period that you want to close. Okay, you select the particular period you want to close and say save and close. So which means up to the 28th of February 2023, all financial months starting from the first of the financial year to this date, all the dates will be closed for posting. Nobody can post transactions in it. So that is open or closed GL periods, and the access to the screen or the visibility of the screen should be limited only to the financial controller or whoever is authorized to do so. Okay. Reports of general ledger, I had already shown you the P&L and the balance sheet. There is the general ledger report, which will show you all the journals that you have posted. You want to see transaction journal by source, which means you want to see the transfer vouchers by specific modules. You select the specific module for which you want to see, and it will show you for that particular date range all the transfer vouchers that have sourced or originated from accounts payables. If you have posted, now when you have subledgers, the posting of the journals will be posted only to the subledger account code and not to the main ledger. So if you want to see transactions posted to the subledger, you can use the subledger transaction report. There is one more screen. There is one more feature which is available in the system, which we call as user-defined report setup. I am not going to show or not going to talk too much about this because otherwise it's going to become, the whole topic is going to become very heavy. We can cover this user-defined report setup based on requirement by customers in the future. If there are customers that you find you need to support or you need to, they are willing to use the user-defined reports. I will just let you know what user-defined reports is. User-defined reports is, this is a screen which is available where the user can choose to design their financial statements, their P&L and their balance sheet. Design in the sense, not the layout of the report, but design in the sense that they can select the specific ledger account codes that they want to show as a part of their departmental financial reports or P&L and balance sheet. Okay, so unlike this P&L and the balance sheet, which is generated by default from the system, which means reports of general ledger, in the reports of general ledger, the P&L and the balance sheet that I showed you earlier, this one, the P&L and the balance sheet, these reports will show the figures for all the possible, all the ledger account codes which are a part of the chart of accounts. Whereas the user-defined reports allow the user to specify specific ledger account codes which should be a part of the P&L and the balance sheet. You can allow, you can use formulas. You can use formulas of mathematical formulas as well as accounting formulas to define what you want to print, what the user wants to print, what the user wants to display in their P&L or their departmental financial reports, or the specific ledger account codes which should be included in their departmental financial reports. So that feature or that functionality is available in this screen called user-defined report setup. I am not going to explain the screen, otherwise it's going to become very heavy right now. Since this is our first session of this is our first trial of training with Web Prol'IFIC. I have tried to keep it as simple and compact as possible. I have not delved into too much of advanced features and functionalities available in the system. So once you go through the recordings that I will send you today, and you're comfortable enough and you're familiar with the screens and the flow that is there in the system, we can have, as per your requirement, we can probably schedule a few more trainings to understand the product even more in an advanced form. Okay, so that is all that is there in general ledger. Moving on, we are left with two small modules. One is the bank reconciliation and one is the general cashier. So I will go into bank reconciliation now. In the bank reconciliation module, there is nothing. It's a very simple module which has a single screen, reconcile bank statement. The idea is to cross-check that the bank-related transactions which you have recorded in Web Prol'IFIC in the system match with what you are seeing or with what the user is seeing in the bank statement which he has received from its bank. Okay, so this is just to verify that the bank statement that he has received from the bank, it reflects same transactions or similar transactions which he has recorded in the system for a particular date, for a particular date range. So when I select, say for example, I select this particular bank. So I am a accounts person and I have received the bank statement from this particular bank. The moment I select the bank ID, the ledger account code will be defined or will reflect here automatically. Just give me 1 minute, please. Stay online. Just 1 minute. Okay, so this is the bank ID that I've selected and the ledger account code displays in itself. Now, amount as per bank statement. This is a figure that I as an accountant will enter. This is the amount that I see in my electronic bank statement that I have received from the bank, from this particular bank. So I enter whatever I have, what is reflecting in the bank statement, and the process and the date up to which I am reconciling the bank statement. So this is the date. I say for example, I'm doing it till the 29th of June. And then I say search. When I say search, on the left-hand side, the system will list all the transactions which have been posted either in AP, in AR, or in GL that affects this particular bank ID and this ledger account code. So if you go to the right-hand side, when you go to the right-hand side of this, you will see this column called source. So the source is showing AP, which means these are all online payments that have been made in accounts payable. So similarly, in the source, when you see AR, you know that money has been received into this particular bank in accounts through accounts receivable. In GL, when you see the source as GL, it could be either a payment that you have made from this bank or you have received money into this bank. And the type is the corresponding bank transaction type, payment issued or the payment received that we have mapped. Okay, these are the account IDs. The account ID are the individual supplier account IDs because the source is AP here. So the account ID would reflect either the debtor, the supplier ID, the debtor ID, or the specific ledger account code basis on the source that it is showing. So the process of reconciliation is that when you see these transactions here and you also have the electronic bank statement in front of you, so you check whatever is appearing, whatever is listing in the electronic bank statement, you check for that particular transaction and you do a checkbox here. You tick the checkbox here, which means you are reconciled. Okay, this I can see both in my statement as well as here. So this is reconciled. The check clear date will automatically be stamped as the reconcile up to date. You can enter the clear date. If it is a check payment that was made or an online transfer that was made, you can enter the clear date as the date that is appearing in the statement. The reference number is the bank transaction bank reference number, online reference number, which is reflecting, which is showing in your bank statement for this particular online transfer that you did. That is what you can enter here as reference number. So when you're reconciling, all you're doing is finding the particular transaction and doing a tick here for each of the transactions that are reflecting in your bank statement that you see here and is also reflecting in your bank statement. Now, as you tick each of the transaction, the amount is summed up and is displayed here at the bottom, which says reconciled total. Okay, so whatever you have reconciled, whatever transactions that you have marked as ticked, it will add up all the amount and it will show you as reconciled total here. Now, there are bank charges or bank interest which you have not recorded in the system because you're not aware of. You come to know of it only when you see the bank statement. So to complete the reconciliation process, you can enter the bank charges and the bank interest that is reflecting in the electronic bank statement in this section. So I say that in this statement, in this cycle of reconciliation of the bank statement, I see that there was a bank charge posted on the 27th of June. The transaction type will be bank charges, BC. The amount that you see as bank charges, that is what you do, and you enter the ledger account code. This ledger account code will default automatically if you had defined the ledger account code at the transaction type for the transaction type in the bank transaction master. Otherwise, if the ledger account code changes, in the sense the bank charge ledger account code does not remain same for all bank IDs, then you can select the particular ledger account code for bank charge, which is specific to the bank that you're reconciling. So bank charge, let me see. Okay, so I said bank charges, say engineering department. So this is the ledger account code. You can enter the particulars, bank charges. Okay. So whatever charge, additional transaction that you enter here, be it a bank charge or a bank interest, will reflect here. Bank charges posted now, and the total closing amount is this. So when the closing amount, where the figure that you see here as closing amount and the figure that you've entered here, which means the figure that is displaying in your electronic bank statement, when both of these figures are equal and you click on the save button, that is the time, that is when this particular bank, this particular ledger account code of this bank is considered to be reconciled. The reconciliation process is over. It is a reconciled cycle. Whereas till the time the closing amount is not equal to the amount that is reflecting in your electronic bank statement, but because the reconciliation process may take time, you can always say partial save. Partial save will save whatever you have reconciled, and you can come back to the bank and start from wherever you had left to complete the reconciliation process. That means to make this reconciled total, this closing amount total equal to whatever you see in your bank statement. So that is all about bank reconciliation. That is all operationally. That is all what is there in bank reconciliation module. It's a single screen module, and this is the only screen where the user needs to work. Okay. Then there are a few reports of bank reconciliation, like the reconciliation statement can be printed. This is the reconciliation statement, which can be printed for a particular bank. I don't know if it has been reconciled at all. No, nothing. Doesn't have any. Reconcile statement is actually the only important report which most of our users use to print the reconciliation statement in a report format. The transaction journal will just show you for a particular bank what are the transactions which have been reconciled, which are unreconciled, or do you want to see both, which means reconciled and unreconciled for a particular bank or a range of banks within a particular date range. So transaction journal is used, but not too often. But the most often used is the reconciliation statement. Moving ahead, so bank reconciliation is done. We move ahead to the last module, which is the general cashier module, where all cash handlings by the general cashier is recorded here. The general cashier, if he's allowed to make payment to suppliers via cash, or if cash receipts from debtors are allowed in accounts receivable, the general cashier can post to both AR and AP, like I had mentioned earlier. That is defined in the general cashier control screen. The general cashier main screen is the only screen where the GC works. So the screen looks like this. On the left-hand side, the opening balance is the closing balance of yesterday. That is the opening of today when the business date changes. This is the cashier date, the date on which the cashier is working. JC is the only module which is real time as far as Web Prol'IFIC is concerned, because all other modules can work on backdate as well, may not be real time. So cashier date is the date on which he is working, the date on which he's posting transactions. This will show you the amount that has been received, the cash amount that has been received as on this date, on the cashier's date. This is the amount which has been the total cash that has been paid out on this date, on the date when he is working. And this is the opening, the total, today's gross, today's net, and the final closing. Okay. Then there is a button for end of the day. End of the day is absolutely mandatory for the general cashier module, so that today's closing is displayed as tomorrow's opening. Otherwise, the closing and the opening, the cash opening closing will never be correct. So to be able to for the system to be able to display the opening balance on the next date, you have to do the end of, it is important to do the end of the day process so that today's cash closing reflects as opening for tomorrow when the general cashier comes to work. This is the section where the transactions will be posted by the GC. Like you see, I've already posted one transaction to payables to Agoda company where I am paying on the right hand side. I've given the narration and I've said I've paid 1,000 cash. Okay. So similarly, I as a GC will continue posting today. I can do it yeah. So I click on the add row button. I can post to general ledger, which means I can post to a ledger account code directly if I am paying via cash or receiving cash. I can post to receivables. If I am receiving cash, I can post to payables like I just showed you here for Agoda when I'm paying cash. So if I have to do through receivables, I do receivables. I select post to receivables. I select the debtor account code from whom I'm receiving cash. So I say Prol'IFIC first. This is my debtor account code. I go to the right hand side. I give a narration of cash receipt against service use or whatever. The amount that I am receiving, I say 500, and I select whether I am paying cash into receivables or am I receiving cash from this debtor. So I say I've received cash from this debtor and I can say save. The moment I say save, the payment receipt will automatically be printed, which can be given to the debtor when you're receiving, or you can give it to the supplier when you're paying cash. Similarly, I can post to general ledger as well. So I say add row. I can post to general ledger. When I select post to general ledger, the drop down here will show me all the ledger account codes. Okay, so say for example, prepaid maintenance computer software. Okay, so this is a general ledger account code that I have selected and I am paying cash for my software maintenance. So I say cash for software AMC. I'm paying it through GC. Amount I'm paying say 5,000 and I say paid. So this ledger account code will be credited. Okay. And then I say save. So the moment I say save, again, it will show me the payment voucher because I've paid 5,000 towards AMC cash towards AMC of my software. So the GC continues to post transactions like this. All right. And when he does for general ledger, in case of general ledger, the journal that will be posted is this particular ledger account code, which you've selected either debit credit, and the petty cash or the cash control ledger account code would be debited or credited. Whereas for payables and receivables, it is not the cash control ledger account code which is debited or credited. There is a transfer ledger account code. It is a dummy. It is a bridge account code that we create because we are posting into two other modules. We need a bridge ledger account code to be debited and credited before the actual transfer from these modules happen into general ledger. In case when I'm posting to general ledger directly in GC, I don't need a bridge account code because I'm directly posting into the ledger of the general ledger, into the general ledger module. So when I do end of the day, so these journals, the amount of 100 and 500 accounts payables and receivables, when you click on this journal, you will see that for AR, it is the general cashier transaction or the transfer account code which is affected. Okay. Whereas when I say to, when I am posting to general ledger GL, it is showing me the prepaid account, the maintenance account code and the GC control account code, which is affected. Okay, this is showing me general cashier transaction again, but it is showing me as type as GL because I've already transferred it. Okay, there is a transfer voucher. You can see the transfer voucher. So this is, you can check the journals that are posted, that are recorded because of the transactions the GC is posting here. And when you do end of the day, okay, once you've done the end of the day, okay, I need to do this. In AR module, I need to create a corresponding transaction type for general cashier debit and credit transactions. So I will go to AR parameters. I will go to type. I will define two transaction types. Accounts receivables, AR parameters. This is a transaction type. I do add ICGD, GC debit. So this is a type of debit note. I say save. And on credit transaction, GC, this is just GC credit. And save. Now when I go back to general cashier and I go to the property, I go to general cashier, my cashier main screen, and now when I run the end of the day, it will again print the payment voucher and the payment receipt based on whatever transactions you posted. Okay, this is the payment voucher. So it says cashier end of the day, operation done successfully. Please don't forget to take out the necessary reports. So this is just a prompt. Now when I check for PFIPL, this is my debtor party, Prol'IFIC first. In accounts receivable, I will, in the statement of Prol'IFIC first, I will see the amount of 500 that has been received as cash. And the transaction type, it will reflect as GD. So I go to accounts receivable, I go to statement of account, I enter and I say search here. It will show me GC. This is the general cashier credit note that has been posted because of the 500 cash that I have received from this particular party. Now, at this point, when you double click this, it will show you the transfer account, the cash in transit account as debit, and the debtors control account code as credit. Okay. So finally, the effect to GC control, the effect to petty cash or the cash control will happen when in general ledger, when I'm doing post interface transactions and I'm transferring this record from accounts receivable for the 30th, you will see that it is at this point of time that the actual cash control account, it could be petty cash control account, it could be cash in hand account, whatever is the cash control account, it is at this point of time, after I do a transfer and a post, it is only after that that the cash control account would be effective. Till the time I don't do a post interface transaction of all transactions posted from GC into accounts receivable and payables, the main cash control account is not affected. It is only the cash in transit or the bridge account that we had created is affected. Okay, so now if I do transfer, I should be able to see the transaction for the 500 rupees that I've received. AR control does not define control geo. And AR control has a lot of The debtors control account code is not defined. AR refund. One. General ledger, post interface transactions. I'm pulling the data. So I say 30th, I say transfer. So see, it is showing me now it is AR refund to the main debtor account code, the debtor control account code is credited, and uh, uh, the bridge account code is debited. So once I select post and I do a post, will the GC control account code, which is the cashier's control account code, the main cash account code will be debited, and the debtor's account code will be credited. So this is how the system follows, or the system works when you are posting in general cashier into AP and AR. When you're posting to AP and AR, it always uses a bridge ledger account code to do the transfer, and the final cash account code is affected only after the transactions from the respective modules are transferred into general ledger, are pulled into the general ledger module. Whereas when you're posting into general ledger directly, there is no bridge account required, because you're already telling the system which is the ledger account code that should be debited or credited. Okay, so this is all about GC, general cashier. Reports of general cashier, again, there are a couple of reports, which is the transaction journal. The transaction journal, you can check what are the transactions, cash related transactions that you've posted to all modules, which means all the three, or to the specific modules. So this is again by which user ID. So it will show you. So all these journals which you have posted in GC is stamped as CV, which is a cash voucher. Okay, the type is cash voucher. Where does it pick up? The transaction type as cash voucher, because that is what we have defined in general cashier control screen. The transaction type that we have defined, in general ledger, in the general ledger control screen, here we have defined that can JVs be modified, means manual journals that you have posted in general ledger, can you modify them? Yes, you can modify them. What is the transaction type that will be used for journals imported from other modules? Here we have defined as TV. So this is transfer voucher. Okay, so which is why it will be stamped as transfer voucher, and all transfer voucher journals, none of them can be modified. If there is anything incorrect, you will have to post a manual journal in general ledger, a contra journal, and fix it. In general cashier control, we have mentioned that the transaction type for journal voucher posting will be CV, cash voucher, which is why when whatever transactions that you're posting in GC, all those journals will be stamped as cash voucher. Okay, the journals that you're posting into general ledger, the direct transactions that you're posting into general ledger. So that is why when I printed the report, transaction, when I was checking the list of transactions that I posted into general ledger, you will see that the type of transaction is stamped as CV here. The type is CV. Okay. All right. So here we come to the end of our training. I don't know how much, do you think it was useful to all of you, the training in the last 3 days and today, whatever I've spoken about, does it make any sense at all, or none of it made sense to you?
Uh, Actually, it's good, but you know that this is very new for us, and we
Yeah,
need a practice and more like pre-session, so we can have a look in the recording, and then we can practice anywhere, and then we can means we have to learn. So basically, this will take time for us.
yeah. I know, I
But
understand. I
definitely
definitely
good for
understand.
the yeah.
But I hope the flow that I talked about, the flow of each of the modules is clear to you. I'm sure it will take a lot of time for all of you to understand and recollect the screens and the fields that are there. But by
Yeah.
and large, is the concept and the flow clear to all of you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's more than enough because yeah, I can totally understand. It cannot be a one session training is not enough to learn up the entire solution, entire application. So, which is not a problem, but as long as the flow is clear, you will very fast, you'll pick up the screens and the fields very fast. That's not a problem. All right, so we finished the session about half an hour before. If you have any questions, any doubts, any clarifications that you want me to answer on whatever topics that we've covered in the last 3 days and today, you can go ahead. Or else, if you would if you would want to learn from the recordings and then get back to me, that is fine as well. So should we end the session, or or would you want to come up with some questions and queries?
For me, like I will go with the recording, and then if
All
anything, I can come. Yeah.
okay, no problem. Okay, then thank you so much for hearing me out with so much of patience in the last 3 days, in the last 4 days. 2 hours every day is no joke, hearing somebody's voice constantly. So thank you so much. I will send the recordings of all the 4 days today by the end of the day. And whatever queries, clarifications, any kind of questions that come up in your mind, please do not hesitate to write to me. So I am there to answer all your questions in the process of learning this application. And if at any given point of time in the future, say in a matter of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if you require another session of training, I would be more than willing to give you based on whatever your understanding is. So thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day and a nice weekend. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.